upwards of 36,000 black bears, and that's an increase of 20% in the last couple of years. And there's been successful hunts, successful bait hunts, successful hunts with hounds, and there's been a lot of snaring, a lot of trapping of bear. There's been the taking of black bear, the killing of black bear in the way of bait hunts, hound hunting, and trapping in the state of Maine, and yet somehow the population still flourishes and grows 20% with all these methods of killing black bear. Oh, who would know? Who would ever guess? Yeah, so see, hunting, killing the black bear to manage their population, it's not affecting them negatively in any way, shape, or form. It's not hurting their population in a whole. And as if you think of the whole grand scheme of things, take this whole picture and look at it as a whole in the grand scheme of things, the population is doing just fine with bait hunts and dog hunts and trapping and conventional hunting of these animals in the state of Maine. Beautiful bear. It's definitely what I was hoping for. It's my first gun bear. That's like the 8th or 9th bear I've shot. I've missed 3 black bear. I'd have like a dozen bear to my credit if I hadn't missed those 3 bear in my hunting career. So I've missed 3 bear, missed 2 with a bow. No, I missed 2 with a shotgun. Yeah, I've always had bad luck with a gun. That's why I've always just stuck with a bow. I shot like my 7 bear so far with a bow. This would make like my 8th bear that I'll actually put my tag on. It's my first rifle bear. Shot them all with a bow. So I've got a lot of bear hunting experience. I like to sit back and just enjoy the show and film all your younger bear and your sows and cubs. So I did just that tonight. It pays off. Wait, if they come in at 4, if a bear comes in at 4 that early, 3 hours before dark, it's most likely a young, immature, subordinate bear, or sow, or a cub, or a sow with cubs. Just sit back, enjoy the show, film them, take pictures. You hold out, wait out a half hour before dark. This guy come in at like 6:40 something. I mean, what time is it? 7:17. It'll be the last legal shooting minutes, like 7:28, I think. There's still like 15 minutes left of legal shooting later, or a little last 10 minutes. He come in a little before 7. It's like 6:45 or something when he appeared, and I filmed him. Waited patiently for that broadside shot. Waited for him to step out. But he started putting that nose up, acting like he was catching my scent, and he was looking uneasy. He was looking like he was smelling something that wasn't quite right, and he was going to take off. It happened to me last year when I missed that bear with my shotgun. I waited forever filming my phone, messing around, and that big one finally came in, and it got my wind. They both bears put up their nose up, started winding me, and they were going to take off. And I shot right under that one bear. I got him with my 270. Yeah, it's bear down. Big bear down, man. shed some light so you guys can see me. Oh man. He was lashed here, the bear. They were winding me. And I took off and I shot under. I hammered that one with a 150 grain, 270 bullet. He somersaulted, man. I think he's down right there. He's gotta be. He's probably between the 3 to 5 year old range and pushing live weight 180s to 200 pounds. All right, everyone, did you know that in the state of Maine, there's anywhere from like 24,000 and upwards of 36,000 black bears roaming around in the state of Maine? They're most prevalent in like the northwestern part of the state and the southeastern and the eastern part of the state. Like in Washington County, Maine, in the eastern part of the state, there's a large population of black bears there. And then the northwestern mountainous parts of the state, there's more bear up that way. So the black bear are densest in the eastern portion of the state of Maine and the northwestern portion of the state of Maine. 24,000 and upwards of 36,000 black bears estimated in the state of Maine. They can be found throughout the state, anywhere in the state. There are folks that hunt black bear successfully in the southern portion of the state, and so in the central portion of the state, and along the coastal portion of the state of Maine. So the black bear roam freely, all over the state. And as the black bear flourishes, their populations grow, which they are. Over the last several years, the black bear population in the state has grown 20%. That's phenomenal. That's really good for the black bear. And so the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, the Maine black bear biologists and wardens and bear hunters in the state have reported in the last several years that the black bear population is increasing, it's growing, it's healthy, it's flourishing. And there are some really key points here that I want to touch on to illustrate why that is, why the black bear population isn't dwindling in any way, why it's healthy, flourishing, and doing well. The Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Management and Wildlife Conservation model, it's faulty, it's worthless without the tool hunting. Hunting is the #1 tool that makes the inland fisheries and wildlife management and wildlife conservation model successful. Without hunting, it would be a disaster. And why that is you gotta step back here and think for a moment. Don't you think that it makes sense that wildlife biologists, wildlife enthusiasts, and wildlife biologists that care about wildlife, and the reason why they have that title, wildlife biologist, bear biologist, it's because they're a passionate individual. They feel passionate and love and and an addiction. They have an addiction to that animal. Why they are a wildlife biologist specializing in bear and deer and moose. So don't you think that individual, those biologists and game wardens and just the whole Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, and obviously the general public, you and hunters alike, don't you think they tried other methods and ways to manage the populations and tried other ways to be more conservative and to be more ethical in a sense? Of course, yes. These departments, the biologists and the Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Department, they've tried birth control options. They've tried tranquilizing the animal, immobilizing them, and giving them birth control. Sharpshooters have been hired to tranquilize hundreds of deer and bear and moose, whatever. This method has been tried, but millions and maybe even upwards of almost $1 billion have been poured into these type of methods to control, to manage the populations, utilizing some sort of form of birth control. But it's that method, that tactic has failed time and time again. And don't you think, for a moment, step back here. And don't you think, too, they've tried live trapping individual nuisance animals because populations have grown beyond their proper carrying capacity for the environment that they lived in, and they've become nuisance, and there's been human and wild and bear interaction, human and deer interaction, human and moose interaction, and so forth and so on. Don't you think for a moment that the biologists and wardens and inland fish and wildlife have tried live trapping individual animals and relocating them 30, 40 to 100 miles away in less inhabited areas of the state where there are not as many? Yes, that's been tried, but has failed drastically. All these other methods and ways to manage and to conserve and to be somewhat conservative of the wildlife, all these tactics have failed drastically. But the one tactic and method that has held true time and time again, year and year after year after year, and for hundreds of years and on, and will continue to work, is hunting. Hunting is the number one wildlife management, wildlife conservation tool that the biologists, wardens, inland fish and wildlife, and hunters and general public have all come to realization and have found that it's the best alternative to managing the populations. And hunting does not hinder the population in any way, shape, or form, does not cause a decline in the population. It only allows the populations to be healthy and sustainable and to flourish. And it allows us, hunters, the general public, biologists, wardens, allows all of us as a whole to manage the carrying capacity. Carrying capacity states that the particular forest, mountain, the county, town, the state as a whole, the environment that the black bear live in, what the carrying capacity is, definition of it is that the whole environment, the habitat of that black bear can only sustain and hold so many of that animal. And likewise, if you take a step back here, if you're watching this video right now to learn a thing or two about black bear in general, black bear hunting and black bear management, black bear wildlife conservation stuff, and maybe you're watching this and you're not a hunter and you disagree with maybe everything I'm saying and you disagree with hunting in general, you got to think here for a moment. There's a carrying capacity for humans, us, me, you, all of us humans in the world. There's a carrying capacity for us as well. Our carrying capacity, the area that we live, where we live, there's only so many of us humans that can be sustained, like health, without complication. You know, the disease, the random deaths, whether it's murder, there's war, disease, random deaths by old age and stuff, and murders, stuff that go on and on, stuff, drug overdoses and stuff that kill people, stuff. All these things that I just mentioned controls our population, and in a sense keeps our carrying capacity at its threshold. So yes, there's a threshold in this. The carrying capacity, the definition of it is that there's a threshold there, and if the population exceeds that threshold, there could be complications that arise. Diseases could spread. Malnourished animals that have a calorie energy deficient and aren't able to obtain enough food and nutrition to sustain themselves could be malnourished and could starve to death. And you've got dead, random, rotten, nasty smelling carcasses across the landscape. Car and bear collisions could increase. Bear and human interaction could increase. There could be more nuisance bear arising in the neighborhoods and in houses and around humans in general. If the bear exceed that threshold in the carrying capacity, so there's a proper carrying capacity here, and how the carrying capacity works is there's a threshold of like where there's so many deer and bear and moose and turkey and stuff such. Their habitats can only support so many of each and every one of those animals at that proper threshold. Let's say you have a 10 square mile radius, a 10 square radius plot of woods, forests, and mountainous land. And in that 10 square miles, you have 20 black bear. Let's say that 10 square miles can support that 20 bear, no problem. But that number 20 is the threshold. If it's below the threshold, dandy, great. Then those 18, 15 bear below threshold are going to go on to live healthy and strong and live out their lives, and their population is going to be sustained, and they can go and breed and mate and give birth to cubs, and those cubs could grow up and flourish and live. And those cubs are going to count towards that threshold. If you have 15 bear, maybe 5 cubs were born, and they're doing well and healthy, and they live into adulthood and stuff. That could be 20. That now those cubs bring the black bear to the threshold 20. But if they exceed that threshold, then problems could arise. If there's a disease in that population being above threshold, that disease may spread bear to bear and eventually could pose a threat to humans. Those diseases and stuff and whatever viruses and stuff that could be spreading among the bears could eventually enter the human population, and could enter other animal populations, spreading that disease. That's a no-no. That's bad. Malnourishment, starvation could occur, and then it could be killing them off. The starvation, they could have just random dead animals all spread about the landscape. That's a no-no. We don't want that. There could be vehicle bear collisions. Could be the nuisance problems could arise. But what comes into play here, the wildlife management, the inland fishery wildlife and biology, the wildlife conservation model needs hunting, that tool, that very important tool that I mentioned, hunting. They need that to help sustain this population at its threshold, its proper carrying capacity threshold, and hopefully slightly below threshold, so that the population could flourish, go on living their lives healthily, strong, healthy, and so the black bear could enter winter with great fat reserves and really healthy, so they can make it through the harshest climate, harshest months of winter, and come out the other end in spring healthy and strong and able to go on and live their life through year to year until they either die of natural causes or until a hunter happens to harvest one. But hunting, though, is a very important tool here for wildlife management, wildlife conservation, to control the populations, so that they can be sustained at that carrying capacity threshold or slightly below threshold. So hunting is that important. So I had to mention that. All right, so if you're watching this video, you're here to learn about the black bear population, the general black bear population and densities as a whole. And you want to learn a thing or two about black bear population. I mentioned earlier on my Did You Know, I mentioned earlier that the state of Maine is estimated to have a black bear population of 24 and upwards of 36,000 black bears. And that's an increase of 20% in the last couple of years. And there's been successful hunts, successful bait hunts, successful hunts with hounds. And there's been a lot of snaring, a lot of trapping of bear. There's been the taking of black bear, the killing of black bear in the way of bait hunts, hound hunting, and trapping in the state of Maine. And yet, somehow, the population still flourishes and grows 20% with all these methods of killing black bear. Who would know? Who would ever guess? Yeah, so see, hunting, killing the black bear to manage their population, it's not affecting them negatively in any way, shape, or form. It's not hurting their population in a whole. And as if you think of the whole grand scheme of things, take this whole picture and look at it as a whole in the grand scheme of things, the population is doing just fine with bait hunts and dog hunts and trapping and conventional hunting of these animals in the state of Maine. All right, so Sarah Lyda is a black bear biologist. She's been studying black bears for over 20 years of her life. She's based out of Oklahoma. She was actually the first biologist over 20 years ago to study the black bear in the Oklahoma mountains, in like the Ouachita mountainous areas of that state and surrounding states and mountains and stuff in her area. Sarah Lyda used the Lincoln-Peterson model. Her and her colleagues and other biologists stuff. The Lincoln-Peterson model, it's what it is it's trap lines. The biologists set trap lines in a certain region and area of the mountains or wherever in the forest that they want to study the population of black bears. They'll set trap lines in grid pattern. So how the Lincoln-Peterson model works with these trap lines is the black bear, they get snared, leg snared. It doesn't harm, hurt, injure the bear in any way. They're not killing the black bear. The biologists are going out and checking their trap lines. And if they happen to catch a black bear, they'll tranquilize it, immobilize it so it doesn't become a threat to them. And so they can go and put radio collars on them, ear tag them, tattoo their inner lips and such, and maybe take blood samples, bone marrow samples, and take other samples from the bear, maybe weigh them, measure them, do whatever biologists do for their research and studies and their reports later down the road. And so the biologists they'll be checking those trap lines. If they catch a bear, they mark that bear, whether it would be an ear tag, radio collar, however, a tattoo in the inner lip. And then they release the bear, let it go. And they run these trap lines for so many years. This is the Lincoln-Peterson model for calculating and estimating populations, wildlife populations, and black bear and deer and moose, or whatever animal that biologists want to learn about and study the population of. This Lincoln-Peterson model has been effective for eons. For at least 20 years ago, this model was used, and it was used effectively. And so they'll go and run trap lines. Let's say the biologists catch a brand new bear. They didn't catch that bear from the previous day. And the next day they catch a brand new bear. They'll mark that bear, ear tag that bear, let that bear go. And they'll keep checking these trap lines, all of them, each and every day for so many weeks, months, or years, however long they want to do the study for, to get a good generalized idea and estimation of the population. And if they keep catching new bear every day for, say, 30 days straight, let's say they catch a new bear, and they mark that new bear each and every day, and every day for 30 days they caught a new bear, that's 30 black bear, say, in their study area, in the so many mile radius area, maybe it's a 10 square mile area in the mountains or forest that they run these trap lines. And each and every day they caught a brand new bear that they ear tagged and let go. And that's 30 black bear in a 10 square mile area. That's a very dense, overpopulated black bear population in that area. For that small area, these bear could be starved to death, for crying out loud. If these black bear if they stayed in that 10 square mile block, eventually they're going to starve to death. There's not going to be enough food to go around for 30 black bear, and they'll become malnourished and starve to death. There could be diseases spreading about and so forth. Black bear require a large home range, require a lot of area. Black bears require a ton of food. It's something like, see, Clay Newcomb, I listened to his podcast, the Bear Grylls podcast, the Black Bear Hunting Magazine podcast. Clay Newcomb has learnt from guests he's had, biology guests he's had on and stuff. He's learnt and heard of black bear consuming like 20 pounds of food a day. That's like 30,000 calories each day. That a black bear means 20 pounds of food a day for an adult black bear. Each and every day, if you have 30 bear requiring 20 pounds of food a day, requiring 25,000 or more calories a day to sustain themselves, to be healthy, to build up them fat reserves for the upcoming denning season in the winter and stuff and such. And there's not going to be enough food to go around to sustain all those 30 bear in that 10 square mile block. And so what the biologists and game wardens and the Inland Fish and Wildlife Department stuff and hunters and general public as a whole could do here in a situation like this, they can implement hunting as a very important tool to manage that population of 30 bear in that 10 square mile block, to help thin the population a little, so they could be below threshold in that so the carrying capacity, so that they're at the proper carrying capacity, so that habitat can continue to go on to support and sustain a healthy population of black bear. Now, on the flip side of this, the Lincoln-Peterson model, how it works, if let's say the biologists are running their trap lines for 30 days and they keep catching the same bear. Maybe, let's say the biologists catch 5 black bear in this 10 square mile block. And they keep catching these same black bear each and every day or every week for that month, for 30 days straight. Then they can conclude that there's only 5 black bear in this 10 square mile block of forest or habitat. And that's okay. That's probably just dandy. That 10 square miles is probably supporting those 5 black bear just fine. And they could go on and breed and have some cubs. But eventually, what is 5 black bear in a 10 square mile area in the mountains could eventually become 10 black bear because of cubs being born. And then eventually could become 15 black bear and 20 and so on, and 30 black bear. And then before long, you have an overpopulated black bear population that's not being sustained by their environment, their habitat they live in. And there's all kinds of problems arising here. And so hunting has to be used to go in and to help thin that population a little, thin it down, and bring that population below threshold a little bit. And hunting, each and every year, hunting is used to manage the populations, the population of black bear, the population of deer and moose and turkey and coyote and bobcat and pronghorn antelope and elk and ducks and stuff, and all them game species. They're all managed in the way of hunting and trapping, and some animals are hunted with hunting dogs, hounds and such. But these are all hunting tools, hunting tactics and methods that is vitally important to help manage and control the populations out there.